2-week challenge.
The 2-week challenge.
Ask your person at work. I'll listen to your favorite show for 2 weeks. You listen to Bubba for 2 weeks.
And let's be honest with each other.
I promise you that we will win more people over.
Oh, easy.
Because there's nothing out there like we do. Nothing.
Take the 2-week challenge.
Broadcasting live from the 1-800-ASK-GARY studios.
This is the Bubba the Love Sponge Show.
I got almost every news media out front that wants to come in.
Now I ain't saying them LA ladies don't know.
I think this is Tim McGraw, of which Manson has a Tim McGraw parody later today, correct?
Yes, I do.
I'll get to that before we end today. Listen, all you channels, go home. I'm not interested in going on camera. They don't need people of Tampa and all these cities that we're heard in. Don't need. If they want my opinion on this, you may have my audio of my hour-long monologue that I just did and use it. Use file footage of the video. But unlike all the other radio personalities in this town that would invite you in with open arms, I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just not going to try to turn this in to a Bubba media opportunity. It's not about me. More importantly, mostly it's about my friend. Most people in media saying mostly it's about the kid who died. I don't have that perspective because I didn't know that kid. I am sad and would never wish that upon anybody. And my heart goes out to the family. But I'm first and foremost worried about a guy that I think is getting somewhat railroaded and truly can't speak candidly about what really happened. I can.
Well, you thought the hype was bad this weekend. That was weekend hype. Now the mainstream media is going to go nuts today with this.
I just hope that this does. By the way, let's get Brooke on the phone, the woman from Goose Creek, South Carolina, and her opinion.
She's on.
Oh, she is? Okay.
Yep.
Manson, I'm very scared of the possible precedent this may have set with regards to short track racing, sprint car racing, sponsors, and more importantly, Tony's, I don't know, long battle, possibly civilly, and the possible shakedown that could ensue of Tony.
Come on, you know that's happening.
When Tony didn't do anything wrong. And now Tony is in this crap storm, probably, arguably for, I don't know, a long, long time of being financially shook down civilly. You know, sponsors wanting answers. That, you know, as many pro people as Tony is a very polarizing figure as we are. You know, Manson, for every person that loves Tony, there's one that doesn't like him and are going to just start mother effing him on social networkings and what have not. I'm just sad for the precedent this sets when my friend did nothing wrong other than participate in a 360 sprint car race in upstate New York and got into an on-track incident. And then that person who was mad determined their own fate. Not by any fault of my friend. Now, that's a very unpopular stance, and my heart does go out to the Ward family. Again, being a track owner, a father of a kid that drives these cars, a guy and myself that has driven these cars for nearly a decade. I know how dangerous. This is one of the most dangerous forms of roundy-round racing there is. And with that comes a ton of risk. But you certainly don't better your survival rate, if you will, on an on-track incident when you get out of the car and start playing Frogger with other race cars. That's not going to end well. Brooke, hello. Now, you called a little over an hour ago, and we're full hot and mad because of our less than. The national media is, you know, really, 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 very, very, very sympathetic and making this a Kevin Ward story. I'm not necessarily as sympathetic as they are. I feel it's a huge tragedy, and I feel for their family, and will do anything to help them. But I'm more worried about my friend. And you thought that was bad, and you were offended by it. I asked you to listen to my monologue along with your husband, and tell me if you see it any differently now. So go ahead, Brooke.
I was never upset that you were defending Tony Stewart. I don't think that he did anything wrong either. I was more upset that you were making a joke at Kevin Ward's expense. That's what it felt like to me in the beginning. I think you've been very gracious of your explanation and very thorough in your explanation, and I agree with you wholeheartedly that Tony Stewart did not do anything wrong.
Nothing other than participate in a race where an incident took place, and that's not criminal by all means, and shouldn't cost him sponsorships, shouldn't cost him legal fees, shouldn't cost him an out-of-court settlement, shouldn't cost him a shakedown, and it's going to. And that guy has all, and he's being spun as the bad guy when people know nothing of this particular sport. Nothing. So, anyway, Brooke, thank you. Thank you for.
1 second.
Oh, hold on. This is the Baba Booey. Very responsible parent, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, that was my 4-year-old. She wanted to say hi to her dad.
All right, honey. Thank you, Brooke.
All right, bye.
Bye now. As I was stating, what I'm most scared of is the precedent that this sets. 1-888-669 Bubba. Call me now if you, in turn, you don't have to agree with me. Maybe you vehemently still think that I'm wrong. That's what this show's all about. Or you now have a different perspective on this particular tragedy that happened. And, I want to make sure to say that she was wrong. We're not making a joke of this tragedy in this guy's life. I'm just not as schmarmy, if you will, as the national media is and trying to go over the top with sympathies and all this kind of deal. I am very sorry. I wouldn't want anybody to think that I'm taking a calloused approach because I am a track owner, and if this was happening at my track, I would be just as, devastated, and I am devastated. I just am concerned that my guy and that a guy that's of name or as a celebrity is really going to be getting shook down now. I don't know for the rest of his life, but for a long, long time. And he did nothing wrong. Absolutely, positively nothing wrong. And listen, I get it. Where they maybe took Tony out of the car yesterday and he wasn't able to race. But I think they did that more for down the line, being able to. I think at the end of the day, Tony, Manson, this is obviously not right, but you get back in there and do what you do. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just a PR deal.
I almost wish the guy would have stayed at his race car, took his helmet off, and just threw it at Tony Stewart's car.
I do too. I wish he would have.
He wouldn't have died. This wouldn't have been a story. You know what I'm saying? It's like you just wish he would have been smarter about his anger. All race car drivers get pissed off when they get spun out. Gene Lasker got pissed off. He got spun out by a girl years ago. You made fun of him. Like that's just what happens in race car driving.
John Orlando, AM 810. Hello.
Hey, don't beat me up, Bubba, but this sucks.
What sucks?
This whole Tony Stewart running people over crap. Who cares?
You mean the talk?
I want more Ned.
This guy sounds like he's taking a crap right now.
I think he was in the bathroom.
John, it's the biggest story in America right now. One. And two, it's a story that is very, very, that we're very, very close to. I'm sorry that while you're in the restroom trying to pinch one off, that you'd rather hear Ned, do prank phone calls to the redneck shop. Casey, hello.
How you doing, Bubba?
Good, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to say I'm not a Tony Stewart fan. I think he's an incredible driver and have a lot of respect for him. But just the person that he is, my daughter races quarter midgets at New Smyrna, and last year at the banquet, he took time out of his day to come in and was the most gracious guy and real nice to all the kids. And I truly think he is a fan of racing, and I don't think there was any intention ever meant by it.
Well, Casey, you saw the video, and, knowing a little bit about racing as you're just starting to get into the quarter midget deal, which, by the way, my son ran over in New Smyrna. Great people over there. Great track. Mark Martin built that track for his son. It's a great facility. And what's your take on it, knowing a little bit about racing?
I just think it was an accident. I honestly, I just think he didn't see him, or it came upon him quick, and I don't think for a second that Tony Stewart meant to hit him or meant any harm by it. I think it was just a terrible deal that happened, and unfortunately a big-name driver was involved, so now it's getting spun by the media. But we all know Tony has a little bit of a temper, but never once would I think that he would do anything like that. And I think he's a true race fan and cares a lot about drivers, young drivers, coming up drivers. He's just a racer, and I don't think that it's a fair deal he's getting right now.
No, it's a shakedown, and I'm upset by the precedent that it could possibly establish. Thank you, Casey. Scott, Jeff, Mike, Josh, I got you all lined up. Scotty, hello.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, Bubba, how you doing? Long-time listener.
Good, thank you.
Anybody that's been listening to your show for any length of time knows when you're sincere about something and your knowledge on this racing bit, man, come on, give me a break.
Right.
Accidents happen. Your show rocks. You can hear it in your voice, the sincerity of it, the sympathy of it. It was an accident.
Thank you, Scotty, for being able to analyze my inflection. Jeff, hello.
Hey, Bubba. Bubba, long-time listener. Listen, I understand your position, Tony being a friend and everything, but Bubba, I just have to ask you, when he comes up alongside the driver, why does he hit the throttle? Why does he turn the rear end up the racetrack?
Well, Jeff, it says that you're a former race director, as I'm a race director at my track. Let me ask you a question. Were you a race director on asphalt, or are you a race director on dirt?
No, Bubba, actually, I worked at that specific speedway. I worked for a dirt organization, Road Racing Group.
All right, so let me ask you a question. Have you ever been in a sprint car?
I have not, sir. I've been in a modified before. I've not been in a sprint car.
All right. Well, let me just ask you a few questions, Jeff. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not going to try to change your opinion. I'm just going to ask you a few questions to try to vet, your stance, so to speak, and see how much of an expert you truly are, and if you understand the workings of the vehicles that were involved in this particular crash. So you are familiar with dirt racing, very much.
I am.
You've seen a ton of it. You've seen a ton of sprint car racing. You're familiar with the car. You've never driven one. You know that the cars, if you know anything about sprint car racing, you know that the car's got a ton of stagger, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Very hard to handle,
That they don't have clutches. They cannot stop efficiently. They're either in gear or out of gear, correct?
Correct.
There's very limited visibility to the right-hand side, correct?
There's no question about that, Bubba, but you
hold on. Now, Jeff, I'm not done. I'm not done. Hold on, Jeff. I'm not done. Do you now would you also agree, Jeff, that if you are in a sprint car and you're going 35 mile an hour, they're not made to go 35. You almost basically are. The front wheels are more like a rudder. You're pointing it instead of steering it under no load. So now, when you're putting around and you don't necessarily know where the accident is, and you're in fairly close proximity to 45, the 45 then darts to miss this kid. You're directly behind the 45. You talk about goosing the throttle. Do you, Jeff, have ever been in a sprint car that know that in order for you to be able to avoid anything and make a drastic move to the left, that you would have to gas it up? Is that where we differ?
I'm fully aware of that, Bubba. I know that that's what you do to turn the car is throttle. But, Bubba, when you say this 45 missed him, you know and I know, under caution, the contact was made, the yellow comes out, you know where that car is. You've just made contact with another competitor. When you come back through that corner, you know to be looking.
But, Jeff, as a race director, as you are too, you'd say yellow, yellow, turn 2. Yellow, yellow, turn 2, correct?
Absolutely.
All right, so you say yellow, yellow, turn 2. At that point, all cars are, knowing that something's happened in turn 2. And you, at this point now, if Tony had, and I'm not trying to argue with you, Jeff, I just want you to try to understand, if Tony was a groove and a half higher than the 45, then I think that your position is more solidified. But since Tony was directly behind another car and not higher than, I think it solidifies my point in the fact that he's, didn't necessarily know that. And certainly, would you not agree that the wreckage, so to speak, in turn 2 was about 20 feet from where the actual mishap happened? So if Tony's up there in the berm and he's running right up there by where the wreckage is, that's one thing. But if he's following a car through the wreckage, how does he to be blamed if he's following a vehicle?
Well, how is he also to expect the guy to actually be outside of his car to be
Jeff,
trying to hit his car?
Do you blame a guy that where a guy darts in on a guy? Again, if I'm wrong, then tell me how much I'm wrong. I think that I'm dead on.
Well, Bubba, I certainly don't want to blame, and that's not my position. Just having experienced this and seen these types of events or witnessed things like this, never a fatality of this nature, but having witnessed these situations, number one, Tony was coming around on the bottom of the racetrack. The car that had wrecked, the Ward car, was sitting up on the high side of the track. the driver did come down the track. There's no question about that. There's no question he should not be out on the track, but it's fairly common.
But, Jeff, I mean, at that point, doesn't all conversations end when you say that the driver was about 20 feet from where the carnage was and that he, and Tony was directly behind the 45? Doesn't at that point everything else doesn't matter? I mean, I'm just asking.
I don't believe so, Bubba.
Okay.
I really don't. I mean, again, if we hadn't seen Tony or other drivers get out on the racetrack, throw helmets, do things, it's all part of it. In fact, from a promoter's point of view, you kind of want things like that. You want to excite the fans. You want to bring people back. That's a whole other side of the promotional.
Jeff, I wish that the Ward kid had stayed by his vehicle, sized Tony up, and blasted the helmet. I think that would have been great. That would have been, as a promoter, that would have been great. And, it could have messed up Tony's car enough for him not to be able to continue. It certainly wasn't going to kill anybody. That would have been the best case scenario. Trying to play Frogger with the 45 and the 14 isn't going to work out for you, buddy.
No, there's no question about it. Again, my only concern, Bubba, was the 14 as he comes around on the low side of the track. Yes, the driver is out on the track, but I still will just never understand why he hit the throttle when he did. Did
I just explain why he hit the throttle? Can you not understand that?
No.
Tony, excuse me, Bubba, I can understand it very, very well. I really can. It's one thing I have a great deal of experience with.
But you don't. Because
I mean, want to understand it.
But here's the bottom line, Jeff: is that you're talking about a dry, slick track, and you're talking about a guy that darts out on you. How are you to avoid that in a sprint car? I'm just asking.
Yeah,
a car that doesn't have a clutch. A car that doesn't have a clutch and a car that you can't take out of gear. How do you avoid something that darts in on you? I'm just asking.
Well, but when you say darts in front of him, I would then automatically think that contact would have been made with the front of the race car.
And it would have been. And it would have been had Tony not gassed it up.
All right. Well, again,
thank you, Jeff. You're spun out. Jeff, you're spun out. You don't even know what you're talking about.
He really doesn't.
Mike, hello?
I don't either, but whatever.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Yes, sir.
A quick rundown. This is another just perfect example of how Alphabet Network, big media, mainstream has grabbed onto something because the jugular is exposed and they're going after it. And I want to just thank you guys for giving the callers their time to make their points and then truly going through it, because now I feel I understand much better what actually happened. I'm very, very, very saddened that a life was lost. But you know what? Like you said, jump out of the car, toss your helmet at Tony. Don't freaking play Frogger. I mean, he put his life in his own hands when he started to do that. Tony was coming around that corner. He's not looking for a dude. He's making sure that he's going to avoid cars. So just a sad set of circumstances, but thanks for having some balls and really, truly reporting the story.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Linda, Tom, and Mike, and then I gotta go. I got a bunch of stuff going on. Manson's got a brand new one with Tim McGraw. It's about President Obama, is it not?
Yes, it is.
But better way. And so anyway, I'll try my best to continue these phone calls and maybe possibly this discussion. It's the biggest story in America. It's a story that we're very close to. Linda, you're on the air. Hello.
Good morning, Bubba. How are you?
Good, honey. Thank you, Linda.
Hey, I have to first of all say that I agree 100% with exactly the way you ran everything down. I have very limited racing experience. I autocrossed for a few years, and my son raced go-karts. Now, my problem is I have been a NASCAR fan for many, many years. I've gotten away from it somewhat over the last several years because I feel that it's gotten completely out of hand and too commercialized. It's all about the sponsors right now. And I worry so much because Tony's going to lose his sponsors, and the parents of this poor young man. My son's 23. I'm a mom.
Linda, I disagree. I don't think Tony's going to lose any of his sponsors because Tony didn't do anything wrong. And as his investigation continues and continues to, pretty much exonerate him from having done anything at all wrong, I think the Mobile Ones, the Bass Pro Shops, I think that they're going to stick by their guy. I think it actually could be a rallying cry to make Tony's brand even stronger. The fact that the national media is trying to railroad this guy.
I certainly hope that you're right. But my big thing is everything is so commercialized now. These parents, Tony's going to lose a lot probably because all they're going to start seeing as soon as they start to recover from the loss is dollar signs.
I'm sure they've already lawyered up. I'm sure that process
too.
is already happening. Tony probably has insurance for that. And I think, I don't know where that heads necessarily, but,
that was the first thing that ran through my mind when I read it on the internet when I got up yesterday morning. And I'm thinking he's gonna, he's gonna be screwed royally right up the what.
I don't think so.
I
don't think so, Linda. I think Tony's attorneys will be able to show an opposing attorney that, listen, we like our chances in court in front of a jury to show all the things that our client didn't do wrong and how and the inner workings of how a sprint car is driven. And I think when 45 testifies that he damn near hit the guy as well, I don't think that it's going to be. I think that Tony's represented by the Agagerians and good enough that this won't be. I don't think this will be a shakedown at all. I really don't.
That's true. Because they obviously have to sign releases. I know when I autocrossed, even something as simple as that, I had to sign a release. When my son raced go-karts, I had to sign a release.
Listen. The track has nothing to do with the situation. So the track and the release that they sign is the track's liability in the deal. The track has nothing to do with this, and there's case law to show that.
Yeah,
but anybody can sue anybody for anything, and that's the problem with the court system in itself. So there's going to be a legal battle. I just think that Tony's guys will diffuse it quickly.
Yeah, and it's if he has to shell out even his insurance has to shell out one penny for this, I think it's wrong.
Linda, I appreciate your call, honey. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I got Tom and then Mike, and then I have to go into words. I got Manson's new one. It's a Tim McGraw deal. We'll get into that and a bunch of other stuff as well. We'll close out the Tony Stewart segment. We've spent 2 hours on it. I think that I have pretty much broke it down the best I can. If you continue to not understand it and want to believe the national media hype, well, then you're a rube, and you probably shouldn't be listening to my show. Tom, hello.
Yes, Bubba. I just wanted to make a comment. You've explained it thoroughly and clearly, but on top and above that, I've gone out of my way to go ahead and take about an hour of my day to look up the actual video and watch it more than once. And people need to come in with a clear mind and an unobstructive point of view to view that video. The reason it looked like the car lifted to the top side of the track is when the kid jumped into that staggered wheelbase. When he's throttling it up, that's a movable piece that he went underneath the tire. It's a pure and simple racing deal.
And the reason why the kid got spit underneath the tire is because he was trying to grab into Tony's cockpit.
Absolutely.
That's what people don't know and can't see. And people are putting too much credence on if you gas up a standard car that has no stagger to go straight. They don't have they don't know the inner workings of this particular car.
I don't know the inner workings of the car, but looking at it and understanding what you're explaining and then looking at the car and doing a little bit of my own investigation and taking a little bit of time out of someone's day instead of coming in with a jaded or slanted point of view, I'm a free thinker. I'm more of a Mr. Waters kind of listener, and I'll investigate things on my own accord and find out the truth behind things. Some people just want to believe what networks tell them, and they're the sheep. I get it, guys.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it, buddy. Fine. Well, last call. We love you, Tom. Thank you. Mike out of Connecticut, last call. Hello.
Bubba, how you doing, buddy?
Good, sir. Thanks.
Hey, I just telling you, I think it was Jazz or whoever's call screener. First of all, I just want our condolences go out to the Ward family, obviously.
Agreed.
I didn't know about the wreck until my buddy called me over the weekend. It's like, hey, did you hear about the wreck? And I said, no. And he's like, that effing Tony, and you know how it starts. So I'm like, I like Tony Stewart, but I'm not going to make a decision until I find out what's going on. Well, everybody's already, jumping off the dock, and, they're just eating him alive. Well, after listening to you today, I'm a race fan, but I didn't know the exact working, how a sprint car reacts. And the way you broke it down today, I just can't believe that the mainstream media down in Florida, with some of the people that didn't come to you first.
They have. They have. Every television station's asked me to go on the air and talk about this, and I'm like, no, it's not about me. It's about my friend who is really getting railroaded right now and another 20-year-old kid who lost their life. So I'm not going to prop my fat ass up on TV and make it about me. I'm going to instead use my program to discuss it, and if they'd like to take the audio from that, they can, but I'm not making any on-camera appearances. Because it's not about me. It's not about me at all.
Well, one thing I will say is you did an awesome job on breaking it down. And anybody that was jumping on the bandwagon prior, if they haven't really thought about how you explained it, and of course hearing from Gene was always
And
awesome.
Mike, I didn't explain it. And anybody who knows anything about sprint cars will tell you I didn't explain it as pro Tony. I simply just gave you the mechanics of the said race car that was being involved in this wreck and tried to give everybody a way to form their own opinion about when you gas a sprint car up when it's going slow, why you would do that if you are about to hit somebody.
Well, it's funny you mention that because when my buddy called, he's like, Tony gassed it up. He was trying to fishtail him. And then when you explained that, in order for that particular car to react, that's what you have to do.
And you know what I really do? I really invite a big-time slinging D media operation to do this reenactment and to get a sprint car with a driver and, Manson, do the reenactment and see what you would have to do if something darted out on you in order to get that car to turn.
Yeah.
That's how confident I am. As I spent 10 years in these cars, my son drives them currently. That's how confident I am in how these cars react in the inner workings of these vehicles. But nobody's going to do that, Mike, because there's no story in exonerating Tony. The story is to bury this big-time superstar and that this big-time superstar killed this little innocent 20-year-old kid who did nothing wrong. That's the story. And unfortunately, it's at one of my best friends' expense. And I'm not going to go down like that. I'm going to do everything I can to defend the person that didn't do anything wrong in this matter.
Well, you know how it is, Bubba. When you're at the top, everybody's gunning for you.
No, you're right. You're exactly right. And don't think, as I say goodbye to you guys for this particular segment, come back with Manson's new one. This isn't the popular stance either. And I promise you that nobody is saying this. But tell me if you agree, guys, that there's a certain amount of urban lore, if you will. If you're a 20-year-old kid who arguably is a pretty damn good sprint car driver, Manson, and you're racing side by side the Tony Stewart, and he spins you out.
Yep.
And then you get out of your car and you give him the business, and obviously it doesn't end the way that it ended. Obviously, Kevin Ward didn't anticipate that. Nobody would want that. Nobody could anticipate that, and I'm sure Kevin didn't as well. But Manson, let's say that indeed he does what he was trying to do, and that is reach inside the car, maybe pop it out of gear, and light Tony up with about 3 or 4 right-handed gimmicks. He is an all-time urban legend.
Yep.
Let nobody, ESPN, Fox Day, Race Day, nobody's going to report what the person's ulterior motive would be as to why you would try to play Frogger, if you will, with a race car, a sprint race car that can't turn, can't clutch, can't brake, and has very limited visibility. Let's not forget that Kevin Ward just got out of that very same vehicle, Manson. He knows the characteristics of these vehicles.
Yeah, I mean, that's an open-wheel death machine.
And he should know that, no one's expecting him to get out of this car because, like you said, Bubba, he's trying to grandstand and show off.
Nobody is going to take that stance. I am, because it's the truth, and it's strictly my opinion.
It just sucks that he died.
I mean, you can tell from the video that this guy was going after Tony. He wasn't trying to point at Tony from 5 yards away.
No.
He was trying to get at Tony.
He was trying to reach into the cockpit. That's what nobody's reporting. But that's what the officials know. That's why there is no criminal charges and will be none. This is a civil shakedown. I feel bad for all parties involved. But I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat this situation like everybody else is. I'm just not. It might make me the bad guy. It might make me the dick.
Do you think they're going to add cages now in these cars so the drivers can't get out?
No, because then you'll catch on fire. And no. They shouldn't. They don't need to. Listen to me. Any sanctioning body, whether it's ASCS, USCS, World of Outlaw,
right?
You do not need to make any changes.
No.
With regards,
this is most interesting stuff that's happened in years.
Do not make any changes. I'm sure that every local track owner, including myself this weekend, will be reminding guys, do not get out of your cars unless it's imminent danger of the car blowing up. Stay in there. The knee-jerk reaction that this story has caused is sad. And the most saddest thing of all is the shakedown that my good friend who did nothing wrong is going to face. When all along, in my opinion, you got a punk-ass kid that's trying to make a name for himself because he's the one that reached inside Tony Stewart's car and punched him out. How about that?
Eugene Lasko over there now?
I'm sorry, is that funny? Are you stand-up comic?
You just fell for another one of his bamboozlings.
Really? Congratulations, that's amazing.
Dummy.
More of the Bubba Radio Network right after this.